So friend, very good evening to all. This is C. Sangam Agrawal, and on behalf of Association of Professionals, I welcome you all in another session of a very special topic on GST. And today we have CA Tarun Arora with us. Tarunji will discuss in detail about form annual return, that is form number 9, GSTR-9, and the GSTR audit, which is form number 9C. So friends, being a professionals, as we all know that it is very difficult for all of us to complete GSTR-9C somehow. So somehow we have a tendency to postpone it to the last date, and government is also somehow on the pressure of the professionals somehow extend the dates. So friends, this is our proud privilege that today Tarun Arora ji is with us to discuss on this very important topic, so that we have a better understanding over it. As I have requested earlier, I have already provided the
Right.
link of form number 9 and 9C at the chat box, at the Zoom, and then comment section in the YouTube. So friend, you can download the form number 9 and 9C from there, because Tarunji will discuss both the form in detail. So it will be better for you all to keep the form 9 and 9C in advance with you. So friend, in today's session, we have CA Sakshi Jindal, who is the moderator of the session. Along with that, we have a CA Parag ji, who is the also monitor of the session, and they both are the member of the AOP also, Association Professionals. Apart from that, we have some fellow colleague with us. So friends, I am not taking your much time and invite CA Sakshi Jindal ji to introduce CA Tarun Arora ji. Thereafter, we will request Parag ji to share some word of wisdom. Thereafter, we will start session of Tarun ji. Over to you, Sakshi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving me such a nice opportunity to speak on the platform. And to begin with, CA Tarun Arora is a fellow member of ICI and a commerce graduate from a Delhi University. And he's a continuous learner of GST and researching on the subject since 2015. And he's a regular speaker at various forums such as certificate course on GST conducted by ICI, CPE seminars conducted by various branches of ICI, and study circles associations to discuss various aspects of GST. He also gives consultancy to organizations on latest and tricky aspects of GST and regularly represents clients before revenue departments at various levels. So we so
Thank you. Although Tarunji not require any kind of introduction, because he is
yeah, it
a
doesn't.
asset for our profession. Being in GST, he has a very good name in the market and taking GST very beautifully with all the professionals. Now I request Parag ji to share his word of wisdom. Thereafter we start our technical session.
Thank you, Sangam ji, for giving me an opportunity to introduce Tarun Arora sir. He's a prolific speaker and he's a student of GST since 2015. I myself attended multiple seminars held by Tarun Arora sir. Whatever questions you have, you can definitely ask him. Even I have received replies from him at night 1 o'clock also. So I mean, he's such a studious person that any query you ask, and you're definitely going to get it. So today our topic is Today our topic is GSTR-9 and 9C, which we need to file. The current due date for the same is 30th of September. Now, I request Arunji to please proceed with the today's session. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And I would first of all like to thank Sangamji, Paragji, and Sakshi to give me this opportunity to share my thoughts before the August audience. And since we are already late with the time, I would be starting my deliberation. Yes. Sangamji, please allow me to share this screen.
Yeah, just a minute. Friend, meanwhile, I request other participants, those who are at Zoom, kindly mute yourself. Might be some sound is coming, so I request all others to kindly mute yourself. Yes, sir, your PPT is visible.
Today's discussion is on GST Annual Audit and Annual Return. To begin with, honestly, I was expecting that we will be having a separate new form for 2018-19. मेरे को ये था कि 18-19 के लिए एक नया फॉर्म आएगा in which there will be specific classification, there will be specific areas or specific table wherein I can reproduce the figures of 17-18 reported in 18-19. We all know that during 18-19 we have made adjustments pertaining to 17-18. 17-18 की सेल 18-19 में लगाई, 17-18 के credits 18-19 में लिए या vice versa उनके reversals लिए. So I was honestly expecting that the form should change. However, the form has not yet been changed and the due date is just 40-45 days away from us, that is 30th of September. So I think this is the best photograph that can describe these forms. सिर्फ जुगाड़ करिए और किसी तरीके से फॉर्म को सबमिट कर दीजिए, because there is no specific column for 17-18. And when we don't have a specific column, eventually we have to adjust the figures some or the other way. And there is no specific guidelines by the government authorities or the CBIC how to reflect those. So it is my interpretation, it is my way of thinking that I would be using, and I would be discussing that how we should be adjusting the figures of 17-18. Yes, they have a specific column for 19-20, but no specific column is there for 17-18. Also, before starting, I would like to reiterate that in the 2-hour session, it will be next to impossible to discuss both the form and the legal interpretation of the same. So I have tried to cover both the aspects, the practical aspect and the legal aspect, but I have limited it to a certain context or a certain level so that we can discuss it entirely, but we will not be going into the details of each and every aspect. So the first issue that comes to us is who is required to file an annual return. हम में से किसको annual return file करें? So before the amendments or the relaxation, so every supplier whose turnover was less than 2 crore rupees was required to file GSTR-9, and if the turnover was more than 2 CR, he was required to file both 9 and 9C. However, there were certain relaxations given for 2017-18 and 2018-19. It provided that they divided the taxpayers in 3 different categories. Now, this is specifically for 2018-19. They divided the taxpayer in 3 different categories. First category involves suppliers having turnover less than 2 crores. So they have made annual return optional for them. Secondly, suppliers having turnover between 2 crores to 5 crores, 2 से 5, उनको GSTR-9 भरना mandatory है, and 5 crore के ऊपर भी GSTR-9 file करना mandatory है. So technically for annual return there is 2 limits. Below 2 crores, it is an option for you whether you want to file or you do not want to file. But if it is more than 2 CR, then you are required to file the annual. Here, one thing needs to be considered, that is, the term used over here is the aggregate turnover, that is pan-India turnover. If I have 2 registrations, one in Delhi and one in Maharashtra, turnover in Delhi is 10 crores, turnover in Maharashtra is 0. Even then, annual return of Maharashtra will be mandatory because the aggregate turnover is more than 2 crores. However, when I talk about GSTR-9C, so the law itself provides that audit is mandatory only for those suppliers whose turnover is more than 2 CR. However, for the purposes of financial year 2018-19, for the purposes of financial year 2018-19, the government has given a further relaxation by providing that GST audit will be required only if the turnover exceeds 5 CR. So this relaxation is only for the period 2018-19, and the relaxation provides that if your turnover exceeds 5 crore rupees, then only you are mandatorily required to get the accounts audited. However, if you lie between 2 CR to 5 CR, then it is your option. 2 से 5 के बीच में आपका ऑप्शन है, 5 के ऊपर एनुअल रिटर्न और ऑडिट कराना मैंडेटरी है. Sir, another important thing that I need to highlight is that this option of not filing the annual return is a very tricky aspect. Government ने ये तो बोल दिया that you are not required to file the annual return, but there are various interpretations, there are various implications of filing or not filing the annual return. First of all, I am reproducing the notification through which this relaxation was given. It was given in 2019 itself, and it was applicable for both 2017-18 and 18-19. So first, it was applicable that your turnover should be less than 2 crore rupees. Only then you can exercise this option. Secondly, you should have not filed your annual return, but obviously if I have filed the annual return, then I don't need this option. It is applicable for 2 years. Now, what is important is that it is your option. I am reading it, the fourth point, I am reading it verbatim. Follow the special procedure such that the said person shall have the option to furnish the annual return. So the option is to file the annual return. आपको ऑप्शन दे रहा है कि आप एनुअल रिटर्न फाइल कर लीजिए. इट इज वाइसा वर्सा. हम लोग कह रहे हैं कि ऑप्शन है नॉट टू फाइल द रिटर्न. इट इज अदर वे अराउंड. द गवर्नमेंट हैज गिवन यू एन ऑप्शन कि अगर आपको फाइल करनी है तो आप कर दीजिए. अदरवाइज जो फॉर्म ऑलरेडी ऑटो पॉपुलेट हो रहा है, दैट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज योर GSTR-9. Sir, I am repeating again. The government says that we have already auto-populated a GSTR-9. वो आपके पोर्टल पे अवेलेबल है. Now you have an option to change that form and file it yourself. And if you do not do that, that on the due date, that is 30th of September 2020, we will deem it that the form is filed, that auto-populated GSTR-9 form is filed. So it may become a problem for you that the auto-populated form may not be correct. It may not reflect all the transactions, or there can be multiple implications because of that. And this has been clarified in Circular 124/43/2019, wherein they said that the auto-populated form will be deemed it is filed. So again, I will request each one of you that if you have any item for reconciliation purposes, be it an output, be it an input, forget about this relaxation. You should file your annual return. That will be the basic document that will be used for assessment, audit, or at the time of investigation, etc. So don't use this option in every case. First, understand whether your client requires certain adjustments. If yes, whether your client requires certain reconciliation. If yes, it is better to file this annual return. I'm not spending more time on this because I have other things to deal. So I'm just skipping this at this particular juncture. Now, the next question that arises is there any category of taxpayer who are not required to file the annual return? One we have already understood, that is those above 2 crore rupees or below 2 crore rupees. Apart from that, are there any other categories of taxpayers who are not required to file the annual return and audit? So Section 44 itself provides 5 categories of persons, 5 categories of taxpayers: ISD, tax deductor, tax collector, casual taxable person, and non-resident taxable person. All these are not required to file an annual return in form GSTR-9 and an audit under GSTR-9C. So this is specifically given in Section 44 itself. Apart from these 2 categories, there is a further relaxation for OIDAs, those service providers who are located outside India and providing services in India through online information database access for retrieval services. They are also not required to file an annual return or an GST audit. Similarly, foreign airlines who are conducting business in India but does not have a balance sheet in India, they have been exempted, that they are not required to file GSTR-9C, but they are required to file a form GSTR-9 along with receipt and payment account or an income and expenditure account. So this is the relaxation. So 5 categories have been removed from the compliance, and 2 additional categories, OIDAs and foreign airlines, are not required to file GST annual return. But there is another thing which every one of us is missing, and including the department that is missing. There is a provision in Section 52, tax collector. Section 52 is for e-commerce operators, for example, Amazon or Flipkart or Home Shop 18, Shop CJ Network. All these categories of suppliers who are running their platforms, they are required to collect tax on a monthly basis, followed by an annual return on yearly basis. This provision was brought into force with effect from 1st of October 2018. So technically for 18-19, they are required to file an annual return, and the due date was 31st of December 2020. For 18-19, it was 31st December 2019. The date has already passed away. The government has not even notified the form, and most of us don't even realize that this kind of compliance exists. So leaving this apart, those who are dealing with e-commerce operator, they must be aware that there is a compliance which is due. However, no form has yet been notified for them. The another aspect that we should be considering is what is the consequence of delay in filing an annual return. So it is very simple. It is 200 per day, 100 each in CGST and SGSTR, and a maximum capping has been provided at the rate of 0.5% of turnover in a state. Again, I am skipping this and I'm coming to the main aspect or the main topic for the day. If you have any query in relation to the basic principles or the basic overview, then you can post it on the YouTube comment section. I will take it up at the end of the session. Annual return. Sir, I have divided my entire presentation in two broad categories. One is annual return and the second one is Form 9C. Annual return has in total 6 parts. Annual return के total 6 हिस्से हैं. पहला हिस्से में तो आता है name, GST and period etc. I am not discussing that. I am starting with part 2. Part 2 deals with two things: my supplies and taxes payable thereupon. My supplies can be taxable also, it can be exempt also, and tax liability can be on outward supply as well as inward supplies, that is RCM. So in nutshell, part 2 के अंदर मुझे ये बताना है मेरी सप्लाईज कौन सी हैं, टैक्सेबल हो चाहे एग्जेम्प्ट हो, प्लस मेरे को कितना टैक्स पे करना है, चाहे फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में चाहे रिवर्स चार्ज में. So part 2 is the summation of my supplies and taxes that I am required to pay. Next, part 3 deals with input tax credit. What is my total input tax credit that I have availed during the period? What is the reversals that I have done? And lastly, with the matching of GSTR 2A, are there any differences between 2A and your matching? Part 4 deals with taxes paid. मैंने कितना टैक्स पे किया है वो मेरी डिटेल पार्ट 4 में आती है. पार्ट 5 डील्स विद ट्रांजैक्शंस रिपोर्टेड इन द सक्सीडिंग फाइनेंशियल ईयर. 18-19 की ट्रांजैक्शन मैंने 19-20 में रिफ्लेक्ट करी है, तो दैट हैव टू बी रिपोर्टेड इन पार्ट 5. एंड लास्टली पार्ट 6 जिसके अंदर मेरा टेबल 15 to 19 आता है, HSN वगैरह की है, दैट वी विल डिस्कस. In totality, if I say, I can divide this entire form GSTR-9 in two broad categories: output and input. Now we will be discussing this entire form GSTR-9 from the point of view of output. सिर्फ output को ध्यान रखते हुए form 9 की कैसे implications है, we will be discussing that. So in total form आउटपुट के लिए 9 के अंदर टोटल 3 ब्रॉड पार्ट्स हैं: पार्ट 2, पार्ट 4 और पार्ट 5. पार्ट 2 के अंदर मेरे टोटल 2 टेबल्स हैं, टेबल 4 और टेबल 5. टेबल 4 मेरे को बताएगा वो सप्लाईज बता दीजिए जिस पे टैक्स पे करना है, चाहे वो आउटवर्ड हो, चाहे वो एडवांसेस हो, चाहे इनवर्ड सप्लाईज हो. Provide details of all the items on which tax is payable, be it an outward supply, be it an advance or an inward supply. And table 5 में वो सारी supplies बता दीजिए on which tax is not payable. So broadly there are two tables. Table 4 is my total supplies. Table 5 is supplies on which tax is not required to pay. So table 4 plus table 5, it is my total supplies minus RCM liabilities. In that, it will be my total turnover, adjusting advances also. That will be my total turnover, of which table 4 I have to pay the taxes, table 5 I am not required to pay the taxes. Part 5, we have two tables. Table 10, in which we will say that we have paid certain taxes pertaining to 1819 in 1920, and table 11, we have reversed certain liabilities pertaining to 1819 in 1920. We are concentrating only on output tax. अभी हम सिर्फ आउटपुट टैक्स की बात कर रहे हैं. आउटपुट टैक्स के लिए दो पार्ट्स की बात करी, पार्ट 2, पार्ट 5, और एक आ गया टोटल टैक्सेस पेड एंड पेबल. अब इसके अंदर इश्यू ये आता है कि इनको भरना कैसे, इसके लिए करना क्या. सर हम इसके लिए 3 स्टेप बनाएंगे. थर्ड के बाद फोर्थ स्टेप हम लोग यूज नहीं करेंगे. The first step is to finally arrive at the liabilities as per your books of account. अभी ऑडिटर की इंटरवेंशन नहीं डालेंगे, ऑडिटर की नहीं डालेंगे. अभी we will just take the financial statement. They have said the total turnover is ₹100. We will accept it as 100. They say that total tax payable is 18. We will accept it as 18. अभी 9 के अंदर we are not using our brain. We are just computing, we are reconciling the figures and we will derive at a particular conclusion. यहाँ पे अपना दिमाग नहीं लगाएंगे, हम सिर्फ पहले reconciliation या form 9 को feed कर देंगे. तो सबसे पहले मैंने ये देखा, the first step will be कि we will be finalizing the total output tax and total supplies as per my books of accounts. Then of those supplies, I will identify if I have reported any item in 1920. First step is my total output supplies and total tax payable. Second step will be to derive out of this output supply or output tax, have I deposited any tax in 1920 which pertains to 1819. पहले स्टेप में टोटल कंप्यूट किया कितना पे करना था. सेकंड स्टेप के अंदर टोटल में से 19-20 में कितना कर दिया. The balance will be reported in part 2. अभी हम इसको illustration से समझेंगे तो it will be better for us to understand. Starting with simple illustration से start करेंगे, then we will increase the tempo. The first is I have a balance sheet in which total sales is ₹100, tax payable is 18, interest income is 25, total is 125, and I have also received an advance of ₹10 on which 1.8 was payable, and the client has also paid all the taxes. There is no problem anywhere. So in this case, part 5 will be 0. मैंने कुछ 19-20 में किया ही नहीं. जब मैंने 19-20 में कुछ किया ही नहीं तो सबसे पहले मैंने part 5 कर दिया, तो 0 है जी. यहाँ पे मुझे कोई एडजस्टमेंट नहीं करना. Now coming back to part 2, table 4 will deal with those items on which tax is payable. तो tax is payable on sales and advances. तो मैंने sales के ऊपर डाला 100 पे 18, advances के ऊपर डाला 10 पे 1.8, total turnover is 110 and total tax is 19.8. Table 5, supplies which are not liable to taxes. तो मेरी interest income आ गई 25 रुपीज की. सर ये 4A, 4B, 4F, 5D, मैं इसकी डिटेल्स में नहीं जा रहा. It is B2B, B2C, zero rated without pay, zero rated with pay, etc. etc. We are here to understand the concept और एक बारी basic overview मिल जाए how to feed this form. Next case study is reporting of RCM. Similar illustration, the only change is instead of advances, now we have reverse charge. So part 5 again 0 होगा, उसमें तो मैंने कुछ करना ही नहीं है. टेबल 4 के अंदर अब दो चीजें आ जाएंगी, सेल प्लस आरसीएम. सिमिलरली जैसे एडवांसेस का था, एग्जेम्प्ट इनकम मेरी आ जाएगी. मेरा ये पार्ट 2 भर गया, टैक्सेस ऑलरेडी पार्ट 4 में पेड है, टेबल 9 में पेड आ जाएंगे. पार्ट 5 0, आउटपुट के रिलेशन में मेरा फॉर्म 9 कंप्लीट हो गया. Reporting of sale of fixed assets. In case of fixed asset, what is the actual treatment in books of accounts? So I would be having certain sales, normal sales, plus there can be a loss or profit in case of sale. So my P&L includes only the profit value, that is ₹2 in my illustration. And lastly, there is actual value of sale, that is ₹10 in the given illustration. Again, my part 5 will be 0. And in this case, table 4 will be of which amount? If I ask you what will be the amount that we are required to feed in table 4, My total credit side is 102. 100 plus 2 profit, total 102. But out of this 102, 2 is neither supply of goods nor supply of services. It is basically profit. So effectively 100 plus 2 minus 2 back to 100, and then I will add the actual supply value of fixed asset, that is 10. So it will be 110 and 19.8. Exempt in this case is 0. My form 9 is complete. I have selected simple items in the beginning to understand how to fill the form. Now changing the form and bringing in certain adjustment to this form. So I have 3 figures, one as per books, one as per 3B, one as per GSTR-1. And then there may be certain items which have been reported in the succeeding year. For example, in this case study, in 2019-20 GSTR-3B, I have reported taxable value of rupees 10 and tax amount of rupees 1.8, which pertains to 18-19, but has been reported in 19-20. Another principle that I will bring into the picture is ignore GSTR-1. GSTR-1 को देखना भी नहीं है जब हम इस फॉर्म को भर रहे हैं, स्पेसिफिकली जब हमें ये डिसाइड करना है कि कौन सी फिगर को कहां पे रिपोर्ट करना है. Ignore GSTR-1. Just use the basic principles that we are discussing and your form will be ready in less than half an hour. तो GSTR-1 छोड़ दिया. अब इस केस के अंदर my final figure, reportable figures are taxable value of rupees 100 and tax amount of 18. मेरे को 100 रुपए का टैक्सेबल देना है, 18 रुपए का टैक्स देना है, इस पे कोई डिस्प्यूट नहीं है. कंपनी के अकॉर्डिंग, मेरे अकॉर्डिंग 100 और 18. लेकिन इस 100 और 18 में से 10 rupees have been reported in the succeeding year. 10 rupees have been reported in the succeeding year. So my first aspect will be to fill part 5. तो मैं part 5 में डाल दूंगा 10 rupees and 1.80. 10 rupees and 1.80. Part 5 complete हो गया. My total turnover was 100. Out of this 100, 10 rupees is now already reported. The balance reportable figure, sorry, and then tax paid is already. Tax paid will directly come from GSTR-9 or GSTR-3B. It will compute the total tax paid and it is 16.2. मेरा total 3B में tax paid है 16.2. टेबल 4 के अंदर मेरा आ जाएगा taxable 90, tax 16.20. Now this 90 and 16.20 is not arrived on the basis of GSTR-3B. It is arrived on the basis of total value that I have to report. It is 100 minus what I have already reported in part 5, that is 10. Effective figure is 90 that I have reported, and tax payable is 16.20. Total tax is 18, of which 1.8 was already paid in 19-20. Balance 16.2 is payable in 18-19, which I have reported, and that is already paid. Matter closed. Sir, there will be a lag of 2 minutes in this comment if you will be sending me any comment. So what I will do is, after 3-4 case studies, I will stop and restart if we have any problem in the case study. You just mention that case study number and I will reproduce that case study to understand it better. तो मैंने कुछ नहीं किया, मैंने पार्ट 5 में रिपोर्ट किया. पार्ट 2 के लिए टोटल माइनस पार्ट 5 मैंने रिपोर्ट किया, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली मेरा ये टेबल कंप्लीट हो गया, मेरा GSTR-9 कंप्लीट हो गया. नाउ यू कैन डिवाइड 90 रुपीज इन B2B, B2C, SCZ, export with pay, export without pay, advances, XYZ, whatever may be the figure. But eventually we know that table 4 will be of 90 rupees and total tax should be 16.2. It is the tax payable and already tax paid, and part 5 will be rupees 10. Now coming to case study 5. In this case, there was an adjustment of 17-18. There was an adjustment of 17-18. I have reported rupees 10. I have reported rupees 10 pertaining to 17-18 in 18-19. यानी 17-18 के पार्ट 5 में मैंने 10 रुपए डाले होंगे पिछले साल में कि सर मैंने 18-19 में 10 रुपए 17-18 का पे किया. 18-19 की पूरी फिगर 100 रुपीज एंड 18 रुपीज मैंने पूरा पे कर रखा है. अगेन मेरे 3 पार्ट्स आएंगे. पार्ट 5 I have no reportable transaction in 1920. 1920 में 18-19 की कोई एडजस्टमेंट नहीं है, ये तो हो गया 0-0. अब आ गया क्वेश्चन सर पार्ट 2 में कितना डालेंगे. What will be the figure that I need to report in part 2? Whether it will be 100 or it will be 110. Before that, what is the total tax paid in 3B? That is 19.8. It is freeze. मैंने 19 रुपए 80 पैसे 3B में पे किए, वो तो ऑटो पॉपुलेट आ गया. We cannot alter this. Paid figure in cash and credit cannot be altered. It will be automated. It is 19.80. Now my question is, what is the figure that I need to report in table 4 of GSTR-9? Whether it should be rupees 100 or it should be 110. Sir, if I report 110, then overall if I see, I have reported 110 supply in 18-19 and 10 rupees in 17-18 part 5. So technically my reporting will be 120 rupees. So in my view, again sir, I told you in the very beginning itself that it is an adjustment form. थोड़ा सा adjustment करनी पड़ेगी, but it will be a logical adjustment. So what I will be reporting is the actual 18-19 figure. That is rupees 118. 10 rupees was already declared in 17-18 annual return. 10 रुपए तो already 17-18 में report कर दिए थे. So now I have reported 100 as my taxable supply, tax of rupees 18. Now the issue arises, what will be the tax payable? My tax payable will be 18 rupees. Sir, you will have to alter this figure. Auto populate okay 19.8 आ रहा होगा. You will have to go and change the figure to 18. Now your tax required to be paid was 18. However, you have paid 19.80, and this differential is the amount pertaining to 17-18. 18 minus 19.80. ये जो differential है, that is the tax amount pertaining to 17-18. Automatically it will be reconciled. आपको दोबारा उसको सिर्फ डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिसर को बोलना है 18 था 1980 1 रुपए 80 पे किया हुआ है, मेरा GSTR-9 खोल के देख लीजिए 17-18 का, वहां पे 180 का पेबल आ रहा है, वो मैंने ऑलरेडी पे कर रखा है. तो ऑटोमेटिकली थिंग्स विल फॉल. द फर्स्ट एस्पेक्ट इज बुक्स. पार्ट 5 automatically part 2 will be filled. Another case study. In this, I have reported some items in 18-19 pertaining to 17-18. 10 रुपए 17-18 के यहाँ पे रिपोर्ट करे, लेकिन इस साल की फिगर्स में मिस कर गया. 20 रुपए इस साल के मिस करके मैंने 19-20 में रिपोर्ट करे. My total figure is 100. 100 में से 20 रुपीज मैंने सक्सीडिंग ईयर में करे, और इस साल की रिपोर्टिंग में 17-18 के 10 रुपए भी. सर आई होप आई एम एबल टू मेक इट क्लियर. अगर नहीं है तो वहां पे केस स्टडी का नंबर मेंशन कर देना. आई विल रिपीट दैट केस स्टडी. My total figure that is to be reported is 118. In 3B, I have reported rupees 90. But of that 90, 80 pertains to 18-19 and 10 rupees pertain to 17-18. 20 rupees I have already reported in 19-20 return up to September 2019 return. Again, 3 parts. The first step will be to fill part 5. सबसे पहले part 5 fill कर दीजिए. Part 5 के अंदर मेरा आ गया taxable 20, tax payable 3.6. This I have already paid in 19-20. Matter closed. Next, what will be the total tax paid? It will be the total of 3B, that is 16.20. Total tax payable is 16.20. Paid is 16.20. Now coming to part 2. मेरी total sales है 100. Out of that 100, 20 is already reported in 19-20. So the balancing figure, that is 80 and 14.40, will be reported in part 2. My tax payable will be 14.40. Paid will be 16.20. And again, the differential of 1.8 pertains to 17-18. Sir, I hope we are able to understand this. In the next illustration, the only thing that I have changed is that the differential, this 20 rupees which I have reported in 19-20, assuming I have not reported in 19-20. I have not reported this 20 rupees in 19-20. Then what will I do? Again, my part 5 0 because I have not reported anything. So part 5 will remain 0. My total tax paid is 16.20. Part 2. Part 2 I always say total minus part 5. Total 100, part 5 0. My part 2 will be 180. तो मैं 100 रुपए और 18 रुपए का यहाँ पे डिक्लेयर करूंगा. My tax payable will be 18 rupees and paid is 16.20. Now my total liability is 18. I have paid 16.20, and even in that 16.20, 1.8 pertains to 1718. So effective tax payment for 1819 is only 14.40. So 18 minus 14.40, the differential of 3.6 will be deposited by way of DRC03. इसको आप DRC से पे करोगे. Now your total payment will be 18 plus 3, 21.6 minus 1.8. You will get back to the figure of 18. So eventually आपको इसको DRC से मैच करा के गवर्नमेंट को देना पड़ेगा. So another important thing, DRC will be paid with interest. Since you have not paid the taxes in time, so you will pay the tax amount with interest. In this, because we are only discussing the case study, I have not incorporated the interest figure. But you will have to pay the interest amount also because there is a delay in payment of taxes. So next case study. In this case, I have reversed. My total liability was 118, but during GSTR-3B, I have adjusted 1718 figure in which I have reduced the liabilities. तो मैंने 17-18 के अंदर excess tax पे कर दिया था, 18-19 में उसको आके adjust कर रहा है. अब इस केस में इसकी रिपोर्टिंग कैसे होगी? सबसे पहले पार्ट 5 मेरी कोई एडजस्टमेंट नहीं है, 0. टैक्स पेड ऑटोमेटिक आएगा 16.20. पार्ट 2 टोटल माइनस पार्ट 5, that is 118. 100 part 5 0, 118. My total tax payable will be 18 and I have paid 16.20. Whether I have paid any amount in excess or I have to pay this differential of 1.8. Now my payable is 18, but I have paid only 16.20. Again, you will show GSTR-9 of 1718. That sir, I have deposited excess amount and I have adjusted that figure. तो 18-19 के GSTR-9 के साथ आपको 17-18 का 9 दिखाना पड़ेगा. That I had reported an additional amount which I am adjusting now. तो वो उसके अंदर आपको अलग से कुछ नहीं करना. Payable is 18, paid is 16.20, and this differential of 1.8 was already paid in 1718 by way of excess payment. तो वो already paid था जिसको अब मैं adjust कर रहा हूँ. Sir, there is one query that why we are discussing the entire form on the basis of GSTR-3B. I think, sir, this question should not have come at this aspect, but since it has come, I would like everyone to bring open GSTR-9 and open instruction number 4. Instruction number 4 of GSTR-9. I am reading it verbatim. I am asking each one of you to please open GSTR-9, form GSTR-9, the link which was shared by Sangam ji. And I'm reading point 4 of the instruction. I'm reading not of the table 4, the main instruction, instruction number 4. Part 2 consists of the details of outward supplies and advances received during the financial year for which annual return is filed, that is for 1718. It may be noted that all the supplies for which payment has been made through form GSTR-3B between July to March. Sir, please mark the word. For which payment has been made through GSTR-3B from July to March shall be declared in this part. So if you have paid any taxes in your GSTR-3B of 1819 or in case of 1819 in 1920, then it will not be part of part 2. Sir, टेबल की इंस्ट्रक्शन पढ़ने से पहले मास्टर इंस्ट्रक्शन पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है. GSTR-1 is only an information return. that you have made a B2B supply or a B2C supply. But eventually, what is important is how much taxes that you have paid. And this is the essence of the entire form. Forget about GSTR-1. The auto-populated form is only for your convenience. It is not the final form. As per GSTR instruction number 4, and even as per the press release, they have clarified it that the values should be derived from the actual tax payment. आपको actual tax payment देखने की what is the actual tax payment that I am required to do. If you have already paid in 1920, go to the specific table, that is part 5, and the balance figure will be reported in part 2. I hope Rishabh ji is now is in the sync, and that why we are using GSTR-3B. Coming back to this case study, so in this case, even if I adjust any figure, I reduce my figure pertaining to 1718. In 1819, there will be a differential. My payable is 18, paid is 16.20, but you need not worry. आपको डरना नहीं है, because you have already paid this taxes in 1718. Next case study. Case study 9. In this case, I have reported excess tax in 1819. I have reported excess tax in 1819, and this has been adjusted in 1920. अब यहाँ पे वाइसा वर्सा है, 18-19 में रिपोर्ट करना था 100 रुपए, कर दिया 120 रुपए. Accordingly, taxes की payment भी excess कर दी. So again, 3 broad tables that I have to use. So in part 5, what I will be using is figures that I have reported in 1920. In this case, the figures reportable will be -20 and 3.6. -20 and 3.6. मैंने 19-20 में 20 रुपए की सप्लाई कम कर रखी है, 3 रुपए 60 पैसे का टैक्स कम कर रखा है, क्योंकि मैंने 20 रुपए और 3 रुपए 60 पैसे का टैक्स कम कर रखा है. मैंने यहाँ पे माइनस के फिगर डाल दिया. बट GSTR-9 में जब आप टेबल 11 में डालोगे तो वहां पे आपको अलग से माइनस नहीं डालना, वहां पे आप 20 लिखोगे, ऑटोमेटिकली इट विल रिड्यूस द फिगर. मैं माइनस सिर्फ और सिर्फ इंफॉर्मेशन पर्पसेस के लिए डाल रहा हूं. My total tax paid will be 21.6. Now, what will be the figure that I need to report in part 2? Part 2 के अंदर मुझे कौन सी फिगर रिपोर्ट करनी है? I say total minus part 5. Total is 100 minus का 20. Total is 100 minus 20. So it will effectively add. So it will be 120 and 21.6. Total payable will also be 21.6. Now the effective figure will be part 2 plus part 5. Total taxable reported in part 2, 120. Reported in part 5, minus 20. Effective figure 120 minus 20, 100. Taxes के लिए 21.6 minus 3.6, 18. Automatically your figures will come. You don't have to be very, don't complicate the form. It is very simple. You just have to finalize the books figure, identify the figures to be reported in part 5, and just reduce that figure and report it in part 2. Automatically things will come into the picture. Otherwise गोल गोल घूमते रह जाएंगे, कहीं पे नहीं पहुंचेंगे. So next case study. Assuming I have paid an additional amount, मैंने 120 रिपोर्ट कर दिया, and I have not adjusted this additional figure. मैंने ये एडजस्टमेंट नहीं करी है, तो मैं क्या करूंगा? पार्ट 5 तो 0 है, कोई एडजस्टमेंट करी ही नहीं. टैक्स पेड 21.6 आ रहा है. नाउ व्हाट विल बी दी फिगर्स इन टेबल 2, पार्ट 2. पार्ट 2 में अब मैं क्या डालूं? टोटल माइनस पार्ट 5. डू नॉट चेंज द लॉजिक, उसको रिटेन करिए. तो आई विल रिपोर्ट 118. माय पेबल विल बी 18. जो टेबल 4 और 5 का टोटल बनेगा वही आप टेबल में डालोगे, 18. अब पेबल था 18 रुपए, पेड है 21.60. अब ये जो एडिशनल 3.6 पे हो गया, इसका क्या होगा सर? RFD 01 रिफंड की एप्लीकेशन लगाइए, दैट आई हैव पेड एन एडिशनल एन एक्सेस अमाउंट ऑफ 3.60. kindly refund me that amount. Sir, during the practical aspect, many of the officers are understanding that there may be an excess payment and these amounts are due for refund. However, we have even seen in one of our cases that the officer is disputing that this is not an excess payment. But in most of the cases, the department is accepting that yes, it is an excess payment and we can claim the refund. So we create all the documents, we substantiate with all the workings, and we also bring in this GSTR-9 and 9C, so that the officer is certain and he's certain that yes, there is an excess payment of 3.6 rupees. Sir, if there is another, if you have any queries, please post, because case study is my last case study on output supply, and it will be difficult for us to get back to these case study at the end of the session. So if you have any query, please post it now so that we can take it after case study 11. Sir, in this case, my total taxable value was 300 rupees and I had to report taxable of ICS 10-10-10. In GSTR 3B, I have paid the correct taxes 10-10-10. However, there was a mistake in GSTR 1 and I have reported 15 and 15. I have reported 15 and 15. In this case, how will I fill the form? Part 5, since I have made no adjustment in 1920, it will be 0. It will be 0. And part 2, total minus part 5. 10 minus 0, 10, 10, 10. मेरे को report कितना करना था? 10 rupees. I have reported 0 in part 5. So effectively, I will be reporting part 2 as 10, 10, 10. I have already paid this taxes by GSTR 3B. Automatically, my entire form completes. No tax is now payable. But there is a conflict between GSTR 3B and GSTR 1. मैंने 3B में 10 IGST दिखाया, 1 में 15 रुपए दिखाए हैं. So in all these cases, you are required or you are advised that you should file a form, a letter with the department that there are certain mistakes in my GSTR 1. However, there is no impact on my tax liability. That 15 is not payable. Actual tax payable is only rupees 10 under C and S and not 15. And the balance of IGST I have already paid through GSTR 3B. So it is better to file or submit a letter so that it is better, so that it is on record and the extended period is not involved in our cases. And so last case study, I had to report 10, 10, 10. ICS, I had to report 10, 10, 10. But due to my mistake, I reported IGST as 0, C and SS 15, 15. मुझे report करना था 10, 10, 10. But I have reported 0, 15 and 15. However, I have made the corresponding adjustments. I have made the corresponding adjustment in 1920 and I have paid IGST and I have reduced my CGST and SGST. In this case, how will I report? Again, sir, सबसे पहले, the first step will be to arrive the book figures, that is 10, 10, 10. The next step is to report figures in part 5, table 10 and 11. So 10 rupees I have paid in IGST, so I will report 10 in IGST and minus 5, the tax amount that I am reducing, I will feed that in part 5. Now, part 2, total minus part 5. Total IGST liability required to be paid was 10 rupees. Minus already reported in part 5, 10 rupees. Part 2 for IGST will be 0. For CGST, total is 10. Total is 10. As per books, I have to report rupees 10. And I have already reported minus 5 in my part 5. 10 minus 5, which effectively will be 10 plus 5. So I will report 10. I will report 0, 15 and 15 in part 2. just to recheck whether I have reported the actual amounts or not, I make a total of part 5 and part 2. मैं part 5 और part 2 का total कर देता हूँ. तो 10 plus 0 effective IGST paid is 10 minus 5 and 15 effective CGST and SGST paid is rupees 10, and this was the actual amount that was appearing in my books of account, that is 10 10 10. So eventually I have paid the correct taxes, but the reporting is different. Reporting वैसी नहीं है जैसे we were expecting. So I will report part 5, reduce part 5 figures from my books of accounts and report that without any thinking, just report that and do a total of the figures, part 5 and part 2. Automatically we will arrive at the correct figures, and total tax paid in part 4 will be 15 and 15, which is already paid in GSTR-3B. Eventually my total return concise and my GSTR-9 from the aspect of output is complete. Sir, if you have any query in any of the case studies, please mention it into the comment section. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp me or call me in future if you want to discuss any practical case study in relation to GSTR-9, specifically output. After completing output, now we are moving towards input tax credit related issues. Sir, we are only on GSTR-9. GSTR-9 के अंदर we have only completed how to adjust output supplies. Output supplies को कैसे adjust करना है. We have discussed 17-18 का अगर मैंने reporting 18-19 में करी है, चाहे claim किया है चाहे reversal किया है. We have also discussed amount of 18-19 being reported in 19-20. Eventually इसके अलावा और कोई adjustment होती ही नहीं है. Excess paid है तो refund लेना है, कम paid है तो DRC से pay करना है. So I have tried to cover all the aspects which may come in your practical life, but in case any query is still left, we will be taking up at the end of the session. Input tax credit related issues. The first thing that we need to understand is that ITC comes from various sources. It can be through normal purchase, it can be an RCM credit, import of goods, or from an input service distributor. Again, due to a paucity of time, I will be skipping this. I will not be getting into the details of all these aspects. So these are the various sources or the various documents from which I take credits. Then there are various forms also through which I take credit. GSTR-3B is not the only form. Yes, it is the main form. It is the most common form. But there is ITC-01, ITC-02, and there were transitional forms also of which we were taking the credits. तो ये सारे मिला के मैं एक क्रेडिट लेता था. In GSTR-9, we have part 3 dealing with it will be part 3 and inward supplies and not part 2 and outward supplies. We have part 3 dealing with ITC, input tax credit, and part 5 will reflect those credits which were reported in 1920, be it its claim of credit or reversal of credit. जो credits मैंने 19-20 में claim किए या मैंने 19-20 में reverse करे, but which pertains to 18-19, वो मैं part 5 में report करूँ. Part 3 के अंदर मेरे 3 टेबल है, table 6, 7 and 8. Part 3 I have 3 tables, 6, 7 and 8. Table 6 talks about total credit claimed by me during the year. It will be table 7 deals with total reversal of credit, total credit reversed during the year, and table 8 will deal with reconciliation with GSTR-2. And part 5, if I have claimed or I have reversed credits in 1920 pertaining to 1780. But this is the extract of GSTR-3B. This is the extract of GSTR-3B, through which we are claiming the credits. So there is table 4 in which we have 4A, which talks about import of goods, import of services, reverse charge, ISD, all other ITCs. Total 4A is total credit claimed by me. Then if I have made certain reversals, that will be 4B under rule 42, 43 or any other reversal that I have done. 4C is the net ITC available. 4C is the net ITC that I have taken. Total minus reversal effective credit that I have taken will be reported in table 4C. 4D, that is ineligible ITC. It is only for information purposes. It is neither added to my credit ledger, not removed from my credit ledger. It is only for reportable purposes. It does not impact my GSTR-9 or 9C. Now the starting point of table 6 is the total of 4A. Sir, 4A के total को उठाएगा. It will not consider 4C. Net ITC की बात नहीं कर रहा. When we will start GSTR-9, it starts with the total of 4A. That is import of goods plus import of services plus RCM plus ISD plus all other ITC. The total amount claimed by you will be the starting point of GSTR-9 table number 6. So it will be auto-populated and we cannot change this figure. It will be auto-populated and we cannot change this figure. However, now the government or the department asked to divide, to split this figure in various other forms, various other tables. That is inward supplies, RCM, import of goods, import of services, ISD, and lastly, in case you have first obtained the credit, then due to non-payment you have reversed and then reclaimed the credit, then it will come in table 6H. Assuming that you have a wrong reporting, मेरे को report तो करना था import of services के अंदर. I had to report in import of services, but wrongfully I reported in ITC. Or I had to report in import of goods, but wrongfully I reported in RCM. There can be many clerical errors कि मेरे को करना था 4A1 में, मैंने कर दिया 4A3 में, या vice versa. So in this case, since the auto-populated figure is of the total of 4A, you can change, you can correct the individual figure. For example, मेरे को import में report करना था लेकिन RCM में report हो गया. Now you can remove it from import and RCM and report it as import of goods. You can reclassify these figures. So this total amount needs to be split down between various categories, and then it will make the total. So the form will make total of B to H and then it will compare with A. वो फिर A से ही compare करेगा कि आपका total क्या आएगा. तो B to H जो मैंने splitting डाला है उसका total वो A के साथ compare करेगा, उसके differences आएंगे. उसके बाद कुछ कॉलम्स वो और कहता है, ट्रांजिशनल क्रेडिट्स की बात करता है. 6M, any other ITC availed but not specified. So this is one of the most important table that we will be using. 6M के अंदर वो बोलता है वो सारे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट जो आपने अवेल तो करे हैं लेकिन वो इस किसी कैटेगरी में से नहीं है. ना ही वो नॉर्मल परचेज का क्रेडिट है, ना ही वो आरसीएम का क्रेडिट है, ना ही इंपोर्ट का क्रेडिट है, ना ही आईएसडी का क्रेडिट है, ना ही रीक्लेम का क्रेडिट है. यानी वो 18-19 के क्रेडिट को पर्टेन नहीं करता है या कोई और रीजन है जिसकी वजह से वो मैंने क्रेडिट ले लिया. उन सारे केसेस के लिए हम 6M को यूज करेंगे. अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, टेबल 6B एंड 6H ये डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड है. जब हम टेबल 8 में जाएंगे 2A मैचिंग के साथ, 6B और 6H आर डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड विद टेबल 8 which is for matching of GSTR 2A. So I have to be very cautious what I will be reporting in 6B and 6H, and accordingly my GSTR 2A differences will come. I am just going through the overview of the tables. I will again deliberate upon the practical aspect which will make the concept very clear. Table 7 will contain various reversals that I have done. Again, table 7H, other reversals that we will be using during the course of the financial year. तो other reversals अगर हमने कोई करे हैं उसको हम 7H के अंदर दिखाएंगे. Effective credit taken will be total in 6 minus 7J or 7I. Effective credit taken by you will come in 7J. Again sir, I am not into the form. मैं सिर्फ view बता रहा हूँ टेबल 6 में टोटल क्रेडिट्स आए, उसकी स्प्लिटिंग करी। टेबल 7 में अगर मैंने कोई रिवर्सल किया मैं उसको रिपोर्ट करूंगा। इफेक्टिव क्रेडिट जो मैंने यूटिलाइज किया मेरा आ जाएगा। टेबल 8 के अंदर मेरी ये मैचिंग करेगा 2A के साथ कि आपका क्रेडिट एज पर 2A कितना है। अमाउंट दैट इज रिफ्लेक्टेड दैट यू हैव क्लेम्ड ड्यूरिंग द ईयर वो आ जाएगा 6B में, 8B में सॉरी, एंड अमाउंट दैट यू हैव क्लेम्ड इन सक्सीडिंग ईयर वो आ जाएगा 8C में। उसके बाद आपकी वो मैचिंग करेगा GSTR 2A के साथ एंड इवेंचुअली द डिफरेंसेस विल आइदर यू हैव नॉट अवेल्ड or it was ineligible, or there can be a negative difference also. Your credit reflected is 90, claimed is 100, the figure will be -10. Again sir, इस सारी चीजों को मैं रन थ्रू कर रहा हूं क्योंकि मुझे इवेंचुअली जो स्टार्ट करना है वो अपनी इलस्ट्रेशंस करनी है. दैट विल बी द ओनली वे टू अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट. सिंपल दो पार्ट्स हैं, पार्ट 3 पार्ट 5. जैसे आउटपुट के लिए थे सिमिलरली इसके लिए दो पार्ट्स हैं, पार्ट 2 एंड पार्ट 5, और पार्ट 3 एंड पार्ट 5. पार्ट 5 फिक्स रहेगा, जो भी 1920 में रिपोर्ट किया वो पार्ट 5 का ही हिस्सा बनेगा, उसको मैं चेंज नहीं करूंगा. इसमें पार्ट 3 में भी मैं कोई चेंज नहीं कर सकता हूं. जो क्रेडिट ले लिया, अगर मैंने नहीं लिया तो मैं 9 से एडिशनल क्रेडिट नहीं क्लेम नहीं कर सकता हूं. I cannot claim additional credit through form GSTR-9. So in case I have not availed any credit, so I cannot claim it through GSTR-9. It will be a defunct credit. The case study that we are starting with is it is the simplest case study. My total credit as per books is 100. I have claimed the entire credit in 18-19 itself. So my total claim in 3B is also 100. And my GSTR 2A is 100. It is also matching. Part 5 I have no figure to report. उसमें मेरी कोई फिगर रिपोर्टेबल नहीं है तो वो 0 आ गया, मैटर क्लोज. पार्ट 3 के अंदर 3 टेबल है. टेबल 6 क्रेडिट क्लेम, टेबल 7 रिवर्सल, टेबल 8 मैचिंग विद GSTR 2A. 6 क्रेडिट क्लेम्ड, 7 reversal, 8 matching with 2A. Total credit claimed by me is rupees 103B. That will form part of my 6B. I am assuming a normal purchase का credit है, मैं 6B में report कर दूंगा. I have not made any reversal. Table 2A में मेरा आ रहा है 100 रुपीज. ये ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके 8A के अंदर आ गया. My total claim in 6B and 6H is rupees 100. वो 100 आ जाएगा, difference 0. I am repeating again. My total claim is rupees 100 in GSTR-CB. मैंने 100 रुपए टोटल क्लेम किया है, वो ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके 6A में आ गया होगा. This 100 rupees would have automatically come in my table 6A. ये ऑटोमेटिकली 100 रुपए 6A में आ गया होगा. नाउ आई हैव टू डिवाइड दिस इन वेरियस कैटेगरीज. आई एज्यूम दैट इट इज नॉर्मल परचेज, सो आई हैव रिपोर्टेड इन 6B. मेरा कोई भी मिसमैच कोई रिवर्सल नहीं था, दैट विल बी 0. टेबल 8A ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके 2A की फिगर मेरी यहां पे आएगी, इट इज रुपीज 100. नाउ ऑल द फिगर्स दैट कैन बी मैच्ड थ्रू GSTR 2A will be reported in 8B and 8C. 8B is amounts claimed in 18-19. 8C is amount claimed in 19-20. 18-19 का क्रेडिट जो 19-20 में लिया. So effectively मैंने 19-20 में कुछ नहीं लिया. 18-19 का रुपीज 100 रुपए था, 100 रुपए एज इट इज आ गया. मेरा जो मिसमैच है वो 0 आ गया. ये सिंपलेस्ट केस स्टडी है टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ द फिगर्स विल बी रिपोर्टेड इन GSTR-9. Next, in this we have assumed that some credits pertaining to 18-19 have been claimed in 19-20. So 10 rupees of 18-19 was claimed in 19-20. So my part 5 table 12-13 I will report that I have claimed an amount of rupees 10 in my succeeding financial year. आउट ऑफ द टोटल क्रेडिट 10 रुपीज आई हैव रिपोर्टेड इन पार्ट 5, वो मैंने वहां डाल दिया। टेबल 6, 7, 8 सर टोटल क्लेम मैंने कितना किया 3B में 18-19 के, टोटल अमाउंट क्लेम्ड इन 3B फॉर 18-19 इज 90. This 90 will auto populate in table 6A. This 90 will auto populate in table 6A and I will be dividing it. So I divided it. It is my normal purchase 90 rupees. I have no reversal 0. Table 8. My total amount reported in 2A is 100. It will come automatically in 8A. 2A से ऑटोमेटिकली उठा लेगा, 8A में आ जाएगा 100 रुपीज। अब सर मैचिंग के लिए कितनी फिगर जाएगी? 90 रुपीज क्लेम्ड इन 18-19, 10 रुपीज क्लेम्ड इन 19-20, 10 रुपीज क्लेम्ड इन 19-20, तो इफेक्टिवली इट विल बी 100 रुपीज। 90 रुपए 18-19 में लिए, 10 रुपए 19-20 में लिए, इन दोनों का टोटल जो है ये मेरा यहाँ पे मैचिंग के लिए जाएगा। इफेक्टिव विल बी 8D विल बी 0, मेरा कोई डिफरेंस नहीं आएगा। So now increasing the level a bit. My total claim was ₹100. I was required to claim only ₹100. मुझे claim तो सिर्फ 100 रुपए करना था, but due to a mistake I claimed ₹110. I identified this mistake and I corrected in 19-20. मैंने 19-20 में 10 का रिवर्सल भी कर दिया। सर पार्ट 5 में तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है क्योंकि 19-20 में 10 का रिवर्सल किया। दैट -10 विल बी रिपोर्टेड इन पार्ट 5। आई विल रिपोर्ट फिगर ऑफ -10 इन पार्ट 5, टेबल नंबर 12 रिपोर्टेड, मैटर क्लोज फॉर पार्ट 5। पार्ट 3 tables, table 6, 7, 8. So now the auto populated figure will be 110. मेरा टेबल 6 से ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके आएगा 110 रुपए से। But out of this 110, I myself know that ₹10 was a mistake. It was a wrong credit. It was a double bill. It can never match through GSTR-2A. वो 2A से मैच ही नहीं हो सकता, तो डबल बिल बुक हो गया था। XYZ गलती है जो 2A के साथ कभी मैचिंग नहीं हो सकती थी। तो अमाउंट रिपोर्टेड टू बी रिपोर्टेड इन 6B. 6B is that figure which will be matched through GSTR-2A. वो GSTR-2A से मैच होगी सर, क्योंकि 10 रुपए मुझे ही पता है कि गलत था, वो कभी मैच ही नहीं हो सकता। तो मैंने उसको 6B में नहीं डाला, मैंने उसको 6M में डाल दिया। लेकिन फिगर क्योंकि 110 मिलानी थी। 6B नॉर्मल परचेज 6M एनी अदर ITC अवेल्ड बाय मी। यू कैन ओपन द फॉर्म, आप सर फॉर्म साथ में खोलिए दिए, उसमें देख लीजिए। 6M is the any other ITC claimed by me. This 10 rupee was a mistake by me. गलती से excess credit ले लिया। It can never match through GSTR-2A. Because it can never match through GSTR-2A, तो मैंने इसको 6B में रिपोर्ट नहीं किया। I have reported it in 6M. I have already reversed it in succeeding year. Matter closed. 10 रुपए क्लेम किया था, 10 रुपए रिवर्स किया, ये 10 रुपए तो नॉक ऑफ हो गया। 2A से मेरा 100 रुपए आना था, 100 रुपए आ गया। 6B से 100 रुपए आ गया मैचिंग के लिए। इस साल मैंने कोई क्लेम नहीं किया, वो 0 आ गया। इफेक्टिवली माय मिसमैच विल बी 0। सर आई एम रिपीटिंग अगेन, देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ फीडिंग फॉर्म 9 and 9C. You can have multiple ways of feeding form 9, 9C. But what I am trying to say is that at the time of feeding, we must also ensure that there is minimum intervention of the software. अगर यहीं पे मैं 6B को 110 रिपोर्ट करता, यहाँ पे 110 आता, मेरा डिफरेंस क्रिएट हो जाता 10 रुपीज का, which is already paid. I have already paid that. So why I should bring that? So I will report it in 6M. मैं उसको 6M में रिपोर्ट करूंगा so that my entire mismatch is 0. Case study 4. I have not reported any figure in part 5 succeeding financial year, so it will be 0, 0. वो मेरा 0, 0 रहेगा, इसमें कोई चेंज नहीं आया। पार्ट 3, अब इसमें सिर्फ एक चेंज है, that I have also claimed certain credits of 17-18 in 18-19. मैंने टोटल क्लेम किया 110 रुपए, उसमें से 18-19 के 100 रुपए, 17-18 के 10 रुपए हैं। पार्ट 6 के अंदर 6B विल बी ₹100 ओनली। 6B में सर सिर्फ 100 रुपए आएगा, क्योंकि अगेन 17-18 के 10 रुपए इस साल मैचिंग के लिए नहीं आए हैं। वो जब प्रीवियस ईयर में मैंने ऑलरेडी टेबल 12-13 में रिपोर्ट किया होगा, वो मेरा मैचिंग के लिए चला गया होगा। इसको मैं अगेन 6M में डालूंगा, एनी अदर ITC क्लेम। तो आई एम यूजिंग 6M to report credits pertaining to 17-18 claimed in 18-19. 6M is the column that I am using, that our organization is using to report credits pertaining to 17-18 reported in 18-19. It is to avoid matching with GSTR-2A. This 10 is not required to match with GSTR-2A of 18-19. ये 18-19 के साथ मैच होना ही नहीं है. So it is any other ITC claim. It can directly be matched with GSTR-9 of 17-18. Sir, I have already reported in 17-18 that 10 rupees pertain to 17-18. This is just a mere reflection of it that I am reporting. Any other ITC claim 10 rupees. Overall, my form will get complete. Again, I am not required to. Mr. Lakshay is asking what is 6M. Sir, 6M is the column in form GSTR-9, table 6, item number M, which says that if you have claimed any other ITC other than those specified above, it is a residual column in which you can feed the figure. So for credits pertaining to 17-18, or for those credits which can never match through GSTR-2A, I am reporting in 6M, so that my matching with GSTR does not get impacted. The case study 5. In this case, I have made a reversal of ₹10 pertaining to 17-18 in 18-19. So my effective credit is 90 rupees only. My part 5 will be 0. 19-20 में कोई adjustment नहीं है, उसको 0 कर दिया. Part 6, 7, 8. सर अब इसके अंदर मैं क्या रिपोर्ट करूंगा? My table 6 will include credits of 18-19 which I have claimed in 18-19, which amounts to ₹100. तो 18-19 का क्रेडिट आ गया, 10 रुपीज का रिवर्सल 7H में आ जाएगा, एनी रिवर्सल्स का अदर वाला ऑप्शन आ जाएगा, which will bring the picture, which will cover 17-18 amount. Effectively my credit will be 6B minus 7H, which is 90 rupees, जो मेरा 90 इसके साथ मैच हो जाता है. This will be 90 matching with GSTR-3B claim. My 2A is auto populated at ₹100. My 6B will be auto populated in 8B, which is ₹100. My mismatch will be 0. Sir, I understand in this phase virtual deliberation, this clarification may take it might not be very clear. So again, I am repeating again. If you have any query, post it into the comment section so that we can deliberate it. We can get back to that case study and discuss in detail. In this case, my total credit claimed in 6B will be ₹100 because it is my effective credit that I have taken. 17-18 reversal of ₹10 will be reported in 7H. Any other reversal, other reversals. Effective credit will be 90, which is matching with GSTR-3B. My 2A will auto-populate in 8A. My 6B will auto-populate in 8B, which is 100. My mismatch will be 0. Automatically, my transaction gets completed. So last illustration for GSTR-9 ITC. In this case, I was required to claim ₹10 under ICS. मुझे 10 claim करने थे. However, due to my mistake, I claimed 15 under C&S, and I have reversed 5 in 19-20, and 10 rupees has been claimed in 19-20. मेरे को 10 ICS में क्लेम करना था. I was required to claim IGST ₹10, CGST ₹10, SGST ₹10. मैंने जब 3B करा तो गलती से 15 ले लिया. ऑडिट के टाइम पे या बाद में रिकंसिलेशन के टाइम पे गलती रियलाइज हुई. मैंने सी और एस 5 रिवर्स कर दिया, आईजीएसटी को मैंने क्लेम कर लिया. Now how will I report this figure? In this case, part 5 is applicable, so I will report my figures in ICS -5 in table 12 and 10 in table number 13. मैं ये सारी फिगर्स को रिपोर्ट कर दूंगा. मैंने जो 5 और 5 का रिवर्सल किया है वो सी और एस में रिपोर्ट कर दूंगा. जो 10 का एडिशनल क्रेडिट लिया है वो भी मैं पार्ट 5 के टेबल 13 में रिपोर्ट कर दूंगा. अब सर अगेन टेबल 6 के अंदर, अब सी और एस गलती से एक्स्ट्रा क्रेडिट लिया था 15. सी और एस गलती से एक्सेस क्रेडिट लिया था 15 का, बट द एक्चुअल अमाउंट वाज ₹10 ओनली. 5 rupees reversal has already been done in 1920. So my effective claim will be 10 and 10 in 6B and 5 and 5 in 6M. Any other ITC claim will be reported in 6M. जो मैंने गलत क्रेडिट ले लिया वो मैं 6M में रिपोर्ट करूंगा. My auto populated 2A will be 10 10 10 which will match with 0 plus 10 of ₹10 claimed in 1920. जो मैंने IGST 19-20 में क्लेम किया है वो आ जाएगा 10 plus 13 0. 10 plus 13 में जो S है 0. It will be 10 10 10 0. Sir, I am repeating this entire illustration again so that we are in sync. I was required to claim ₹10 each under I, C and S. मुझे 10 10 10 तीनों में क्लेम करने थे. मैंने गलती से क्लेम किया 0 15 15. गलती रियलाइज हो गई. I reduced 5 and 5 in C and S और 10 रुपए मैंने एडिशनल क्लेम कर लिया सक्सीडिंग ईयर. जब मैंने पार्ट 5 की रिपोर्टिंग करी तो मैंने बोला सर टेबल 12 के अंदर मैंने 5 और 5 का रिवर्सल किया है सी और एस में. टेबल 13 के अंदर मैंने बोला कि 10 रुपीज का आईजीएसटी एडिशनल क्लेम किया. तो मैंने पार्ट 5 में बोला 10 क्लेम किया, 5 और 5 सी और एस का रिवर्सल किया. टेबल 6 के अंदर ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके आ रहा है 0 15 15. 6A ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके आ गया 0 15 15. क्योंकि मैंने ये पूरे का पूरा अगले साल किया तो मैंने 6B में भी इसको 0 रिपोर्ट किया. आईजीएसटी सर मैंने इस साल कुछ नहीं लिया, मेरा वो 0 है. 2A में 10 रुपए आ रहा है, मेरा 10 रुपए आईजीएसटी आ गया. ये मैचिंग के लिए कितना जाएगा इस साल से 0. टेबल 13 से 10 मैचिंग के लिए 10 रुपए चला गया. मेरा मिसमैच 0 हो गया. आईजीएसटी का मेरा अकाउंट क्लियर हो गया. सीजीएसटी के अंदर मेरा 6 से ऑटो पॉपुलेट होके आ रहा है 15, लेकिन इस 15 में से 5 रुपए की गलती है और वो गलती ऐसी है विच कैन नेवर मैच थ्रू GSTR-2A. वो GSTR-2A से कभी मैच ही नहीं हो सकती थी. तो मैंने बोला सर इस 15 में से 10 रुपए तो मैचिंग के लिए जाए, वो मैंने 6B में रिपोर्ट कर दिया. 5 रुपए मैंने बोल दिया एनी अदर ITC क्लेम एंड दिस एनी अदर ITC क्लेम हैज ऑलरेडी बीन रिवर्स्ड इन टेबल नंबर 12. तो ये आपस में नॉक ऑफ हो गया. टेबल 6B में 10 रुपए आया, टेबल 13 में C मेरा 0 है तो 10 प्लस 0 10 रुपीज मैचिंग के लिए गया, वो ऑलरेडी मैच हो गया. तो मेरा ये मैच होके बाहर आ जाएगा. सर क्योंकि ये इलस्ट्रेशन सी मैंने इसको GSTR-2A को प्रॉपर मैचिंग में दिखाया, there may be a possibility that your GSTR-2A is less or is reporting excess. In both these cases you need not worry. आपको वरी करने की नीड नहीं है. Your credits at least up till 9th of October 2019 will not be determined through GSTR-2A. 36(4) जो 10% और 20% का कॉन्सेप्ट आया, it is effective with effect from 9th October 2019. 17-18 में नहीं है, 18-19 में नहीं है, 19-20 के भी मिड से आया है. तो इसलिए जिस साल के हम 2A की बात कर रहे हैं उस साल में आपका क्रेडिट जो है वो 2A से डिटरमिन नहीं होगा. Even if the credit reporting is less, even then you are not required to pay that because it is reporting lesser than what you have claimed. You can substantiate that with your invoices, with your payment, with a document from the supplier that he has already paid the taxes. You can use all these documents to substantiate the claim. Sangam ji, how much time we are left? Accordingly, I will start the part 2.
Sir, currently it is 8 up to the 9-10 maximum we have to close, sir.
Okay, sir. So, sir, GST audit. So after concluding, after finalizing my GSTR-9, my next step will be GST audit. When I started GSTR-9, I said, अपना दिमाग नहीं लगाना, जो figures हैं बस उसी को populate करना है. But when I talk about GST audit, now you have to use your brain. Now, because you will be certifying this document, and you have to make sure that the document certified by you is correct to the extent possible, to the best of your understanding, to the best of your knowledge of the law. Sir, in GST audits, we have two parts, part A and part B. Part A is reconciliation statement and part B is certification. In part A, we will be reconciling turnover, taxes paid and ITC. हम तीन चीजों को reconcile करेंगे, turnover, taxes paid और ITC, and there is an option for auditor to give his comments, to give his recommendation on additional liability, and certification is nothing but an audit report. So there are two different parts. One is reconciliation with auditor's recommendation of, and this will be quantification of by the auditor of the recommendation. And the second aspect is the audit report. Sir, I am skipping these meaning of audit, etc., because it will take unnecessary time. Sir, as a GST auditor, I should have discussed that the definition of audit. But keeping that aside, as a GST auditor, what should be my stress area? What should be my focus area? So after all the understanding of the law, I think there can only be three parts to it. Output tax, input tax, and my documents and records. इन तीन के बाहर कुछ भी नहीं है GST के अंदर. What tax I am required to pay, what credit I am eligible to, and whether I am maintaining the required documents and records or not. If I satisfy, if I do these three things, I have made sufficient compliance. Rather, I have complied the entire law, because the dispute will either be in relation to output tax or in relation to input tax or documents. And even when I talk about output tax, I can divide it into 5 different categories. One is my credit side of P&L, plus those items which have been knocked off with an expenditure. For example, I have collected some freight from my customer and I have adjusted, I have knocked off with the expenditure. Then I have to reintroduce that. So one is my credit side of P&L. Then is my related party transaction and cross charge. Then is my disposal of capital goods, advances and RCM. All my liabilities will arise through only these items. Credit side of P&L, my related party transaction, which may not have a mention in the financial books because it is a non-monetary transaction, but you will have to identify it and report it. Disposal of capital goods, advances and lastly RCM. So eventually output के लिए भी 5 चीजें वेरीफाई कर लें और इसमें साथ में देख लें कि उसके HSN या क्लासिफिकेशन ठीक है या नहीं है, रेट ऑफ टैक्स ठीक लगाया है या नहीं, एग्जेम्पशंस ठीक लिया है या नहीं, प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई ठीक है या नहीं. If everything is correct, your output tax is almost or near to correct or perfect. In input tax credit, you will have technically or 13 areas to identify. Even if I say 13 areas, if I just document them, it will be very simple for me. It will be very simple for me to identify yes, no, whether these conditions are satisfied or not. And these 13 are not very big. These are very simple. Section 16(1) says that you should be a registered person and whatever credit you are taking should be for business purposes. So very simple, whether the condition is satisfied, yes. Then 16(2) has 4 conditions. You should have a tax paying document. You should actually receive goods and services. The payment of taxes by the supplier is must, and you should have filed your return. So 16(2) की compliance होगी नहीं होगी. Then whether the payment has been made within 180 days or not, whether depreciation and ITC simultaneously have been claimed or not, whether the credits have been claimed within the stipulated time, that is March 19 for 17-18 and September 19 for 18-19. Matching the GSTR-2A to ascertain whether matching is complete or not, or whether you are required to go extensively to the basically the authenticity of the credits. Section 17.1 to 17.4, that is apportionment of credit, whether your client is dealing in any exempt supply. If yes, whether apportionment is required or not, whether your client has taken any block credit or not, whether any capital goods have been disposed of or not. Lastly, if the supply is restricted, if the rate is notified that you can use this rate without any ITC, whether those conditions have been satisfied or not. So eventually, if you check all these things, you have complied with the input tax credit. The second major limb, one is output tax, then is input tax. And then we have, I will come back to this in the next slide. Then we have certain records and documents that we are required to prepare. I will be skipping this because it is very simple and almost every one of us know which record is required to be prepared. But due to some or the other reasons, we miss preparing those records or those documents. So we will be having a list of all the records and documents that are required to be prepared. You are advised to go through all the records and all the requirements, and accordingly you can see whether all these documents and records have been prepared or not. And if not, then you have to take a call what is to be done. The most important aspect that comes to us is in relation to credits of RCM. Credit of RCM which was paid in the succeeding year. For example, certain RCM liabilities were paid in 1920 or say even 2021, which are being paid as on date. What is the status of those credits? जो credits RCM के credits मेरे हैं जिनको मैं liability के 2 साल बाद पे कर रहा हूँ, what is the status of those credits? The only restriction is contained in section 16.4. The only restriction is in section 16.4, which says that you cannot claim the credit after a specified date, that is September 2019 return for 18-19. So are registered. This is the extract of that section 16, which says that you are not eligible to take credit in respect of any invoice or debit note after the due date. I'm not going into the detail. We all understand that the credit of RCM is credit of any document is debarred with effect from September 2019 return if it is an invoice or a debit note. Now the issue arises in case of RCM. In case of RCM, what will be the status? The first thing that we need to ascertain is that what is the tax paying document for reverse charge? जब मैं रिवर्स चार्ज के टैक्सेस की बात करता हूं, जिसके क्रेडिट लेने की बात कर रहा हूं, what is the precise document through which those credits can be claimed? That is contained in Rule 36, and it says that invoice issued in accordance with 31(3)(f). तो जो मैं self invoice generate करता हूं, that is the creditable document, but it is subject to a condition that taxes must be paid. So if I have paid the taxes, only then the credit become eligible. Only then I am allowed to get the credit. Now, can my credit become ineligible even before it has come to the life? मैंने पेमेंट करी 18-19 की लाइबिलिटी आरसीएम की पे करी 19-20 में, क्रेडिट क्रिएट कब हुआ? 19-20 में। क्या वो 18-19 में डी बार हो सकता था? क्या वो 18-19 में उसकी लास्ट डेट निकल सकती थी? तो इन माय हम्बल व्यू देयर इज नो लिमिटेशन ऑन आरसीएम subject to a condition that it has been claimed within the specified date. हमने उसको जिस साल पे किया है उस साल के सितंबर, उसके अगले साल के सितंबर तक कर लिया. It is not from the date of the liability, it is from the date of payment. However, when I will be paying my RCM liabilities, the amount will be paid with interest with effect from the original date. So the RCM will be paid with interest, but credit of that can be claimed in the year of payment also. That is one of the aspects that comes to our discussion every now and then, whether RCM can be claimed in the succeeding year or not. Again, sir, it is my view. The department may or may not accept it, but Rule 36(1)(b) is very much in your favor, that a credit cannot die even before coming into the picture, even before coming into life. बिना टैक्स पेमेंट के तो मेरा क्रेडिट ही नहीं बनता. हाँ, साथ के साथ मैंने पे किया, क्रेडिट ले लिया, तो आई हैव पेड एंड टेकन द क्रेडिट. दैट इज अ डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट. But I cannot claim the credit without payment. So if I have paid in 1920, the right originates in 1920, and that right cannot be debarred in 1718 or 1819. Second aspect, don't say it is a revenue neutral transaction. Don't say it is a revenue neutral transaction. In case departmental officers come and they identify that a particular RCM was payable, that a particular reverse charge liability is payable, and you say, sir, it was a revenue neutral transaction, I would have taken the credit, then they will trigger section 7. They may trigger section 74. They may issue a show cause notice in section 74, and any amount deposited in correspondence to section 74, then those credits are ineligible by virtue of section 17. Section 17(5) to be very precise. So on a later date, it might be possible. Yes, we can argue that it is not an item of section 74, but the important aspect here is to understand is that you are inviting a litigation. So it is better if you have identified that a particular amount is payable, you are advised to pay it with interest and claim the amount. Yes, interest will be a hit, but it will be a better as compared where your credit will also be disputed. Now we are starting with part A, that is the reconciliation statement. Reconciliation statement has 5 parts in it. One is again basic, name, GST and etc. Part 2 deals with reconciliation of turnover. Turnover in 2 categories, gross and taxable. Gross means entire turnover, each and every supply that you have made, whether tax is payable or not. And when we talk about taxable supplies, then only those supplies on which tax was required to be paid. And ITC again on gross level and expense level. However, expense level relaxation has been given. Table number 14 has been made optional, and I think none of us is actually now preparing table number 14. Then there are reconciliation of taxes paid, that total tax paid by you and total taxes actually payable. And lastly, auditor's recommendation. This is again an overview. Now, to begin with, another important thing that we need to understand is when I am feeding the data in tables 4, table 5, 6, 8, 7, 9, all the tables, which figures I will be using, of the taxpayer or of the auditor, assuming there is a conflict that credit of car insurance is eligible or not. Credit of business gift is eligible or not. Client will say it is eligible. I will say auditor is saying it is not eligible. Or there is a dispute that it is taxable at the rate of 18% and not 5%. Or it is taxable and not exempt. Now, my first aspect to understand is when I'm submitting, when I'm creating, when I'm feeding the data in GSTR-9C, what is the figure that I have to take? Whether it will be the figure of the assessee, that is the supplier, or the figure as per auditor. Sir, in my view, when I talk about part 2, part 3, part 4, that is reconciliation of turnover, taxes and ITC. I am talking about reconciliations of turnover, taxes and ITC. It should be the figure of the supplier. It should be the figure of the supplier, but part 5 is my area. I can report anything over there, any liability, any amount which I feel. Wherever I disagree, I have a specific item, I have a specific part 5 for auditor recommendation, wherein I can include everything. Now, the second aspect is Why I say that all the reconciliation should be on the basis of the supplier's data. Because if we read the heading, I am reading the heading of part 2. You can also read in your form GSTR-9C part 2. Reconciliation of turnover declared in audited financial statement with turnover declared in annual return. Audited financial statement, you have already reported a turnover. It is certified by their statutory auditor. So there is a specific document that it is the final figure. GSTR-9 is already a submitted document. So you have to reconcile the two documents. One is the audited financial statement. One is the annual return. Both are final documents. It is just like a bank reconciliation statement. Balance as per books, balance as per bank, and you are reconciling. So BRS, whether it is prepared by you or me, there will be, if there are three items that needs to be reconciled, whether I prepare a BRS or you prepare a BRS, there will always be 3 items. Similarly, when I prepare a reconciliation on the GST audit and you prepare a reconciliation, it should always match. And it will match only and only if there are two standard, two fixed documents, two figures which cannot be altered. That is the audited financial statement and the annual return. If I intervene, if as an auditor I say, no, the turnover should be 110, and Sangamji say, no, it should be 115, XYZ say, no, it should be 105, and the supplier is saying, meri to so hi hai. So the first aspect is whether supplier has made any reconciliation difference or not. Turnover as per him in audited financial statement is 100. He has reported that in annual return 100. His reconciliation difference is 0. Now, whatever additional you are saying, it is your recommendation, and the government has given a specific column in part 5 to report that. So in my view, reconciliation should be limited with 2 freeze documents, that is financial statement and GSTR-9. You can have n number of observations, but that should be reported in part 5 and not in part 2, 3, and 4. Part 2, table 5 says that you derive the total figure of your P&L. Total figure, total credit side of your P&L. Usme se you adjust what are no supplies. For example, forex gain loss, or duty drawback received, or profit on gain sale of fixed asset, or a notional AS11 adjustment, or any other adjustment which has nothing to do with actual supply. You will arrive at your annual turnover. That is the effective supplies that you have made. And it will include even the exempt supplies. What we have just now removed is items which are not supply at all. And we have arrived at the figure as to the total supplies made by the taxpayer. And it will be compared with total figures reported in GSTR-9. And if you see GSTR-9, table 4, total supplies on which tax was paid. Table 5, supplies on which tax was not required to be paid. So table 4 plus table 5 minus RCM should match with this. And in case you have any unreconciled turnover, then you have to justify it in table 6. Similarly, when we start with table 7, this total turnover, which will include even the exempt supplies, it will be the starting point. It is not total turnover, and I will remove all those items on which tax is not required to be paid, and I will arrive at total taxable turnover. It will again be compared with GSTR now. Now it will be compared with GSTR-9 table number 4 minus RCM. टेबल 4 में टोटल टैक्स दिया, उसमें से रिवर्स चार्ज हटा दिया, उससे मैच करेगा. सर इसके अंदर एक चीज और ध्यान करेंगे, मैंने शायद GSTR-9 के टेबल 10 और 11 में भी कुछ फिगर डाली होगी. That also will be considered in this. So effectively my unreconciled turnover will come. So turnover in GSTR-9 will be table 4 plus table 5 plus table 10, 11 minus reverse charge. Table 4 plus table 5 plus 10, 11 minus 5 RCM liabilities. That will be compared with table 5, and table 7 के अंदर table 4 plus table 10, 11 minus RCM it will be compared. If we have already prepared, if the books are final if the books are final and we have reported correctly in GSTR-9, then your table 5 and 7 will be 0. क्यों? क्योंकि आपकी recommendation को तो मैं already last में ले गया auditor's recommendation में, आपकी recommendation को तो मैं last में ले गया auditor's recommendation में, automatically आपका ये जो unreconciled difference है ये 0 आना चाहिए in ideal situation. But there can be situations wherein there is an unreconciled difference, and then you will have to identify what is the reason for that. And in case there is a difference in your taxable turnover, then it has to be reported in table number 8. Now, understanding this table 5. Now we are starting with table 5, and table 5 is the first table of GSTR-9. See, this is my audited financial statement. My total supply was ₹100, of which I have given a discount of ₹10. मैंने 10 रुपए का डिस्काउंट दिया था, लेकिन उस पे जीएसटी रिवर्सल नहीं किया. My audited turnover is 90 की ऑडिटेड टर्नओवर है, जिसमें 100 रुपए की सप्लाई थी 10 रुपीज के क्रेडिट नोट से. नाउ my starting point will be credit side of my P&L, which is 90, and as per 9 my total turnover will be ₹100. As per 9 my total turnover is ₹100, on which I am required to pay the taxes. And these discounts which are included in my audited financial statement will be added back to the total turnover, total supplies. 90 में 10 रुपये add करूंगा, my total supply will be 100, which will match with my GSTR-9, and my total unreconciled difference will be 0. So this is the case of unbilled revenue. So assuming my billing is from 15th to 14th of next month, तो मेरे पास जो मार्च के महीने के अंदर है, मार्च के महीने के अंदर कुछ मेरा रेवेन्यू जो है वो अप्रैल में बुक होता है. Some revenues, the invoices of which will be issued in April. So in this case, I will be booking an unbilled revenue on the basis of AS9. So this ₹10 of unbilled revenue pertains to invoices issued in the succeeding year pertaining to the current year. Current year के रेवेन्यू है जिसको मैंने अगले साल इनवॉइस किया, लेकिन AS9 की वजह से मैंने उसको अनबिल्ड रेवेन्यू डाल दिया. अब इस केस के अंदर my audited turnover is 110. However, my supplies are only ₹100 because I have issued invoice in the succeeding year, and that invoice will be reported in the succeeding financial year. So what adjustment I will do? My starting point is 110, credit side of P&L. My GSTR-9 turnover is 100, and if I reduce unbilled revenue, my total will be 100, which will match with my total value. So automatically वो match हो जाए. Similarly, these are other adjustments which can be understood. I am just skipping these adjustments because it is very simple. You just have to understand कि उसको plus minus कैसे करना. The important aspect of the table that is most important. If you have filled the data as per GSTR-9, the logic which I have given, your output table 5, table 7 will be automatic. उसमें कोई difference नहीं आएगा. But input table number 12 के अंदर आपके कुछ variances आ सकते हैं. Table 12 says it starts with total ITC as per your audited balance sheet. इसके अंदर आपसे ऐड करवाता है, वो बोलता है credits which were booked in previous year but claimed in this year. 17-18 के अंदर बुक किया था, क्लेम 18-19 में किया. Then booked in current year but claimed in succeeding year. बुक तो 18-19 में किया था, लेकिन क्लेम 19-20 में किया. Lastly, ITC availed as per audited as per effective balance sheet A plus B minus C. ITC will be compared with GSTR-9. In this, it will not take the impact of part 5. ये सिर्फ 7J पे रुक जाएगा. Lastly, मेरा unreconciled ITC आ जाएगा. Table number 14 has been made optional. I am not discussing it, and I am now starting on with the case studies so that we are able to understand this table 12. Sir, effectively GSTR-9C में 4-5 टेबल ही भरने हैं. टेबल 5 टर्नओवर से क्रेडिट साइड से आप टर्नओवर पे आइए. टेबल 7 टोटल टर्नओवर से टैक्सेबल टर्नओवर में आइए. टेबल 9 अपने टैक्सेस बता दीजिए, 5 पे कितना देना है, 18, 12, 0.1, 3 पे, उसके बाद टेबल नंबर 12. And now we are discussing table number 12 of GSTR-9C. Sir, you all can open table number 12 so that it is easy for you to understand what we are doing. Sir, in GSTR-9, what I would have reported is my part 5 is 0 क्योंकि मैंने 19-20 में कुछ किया नहीं, और पार्ट 6 में मेरा पूरे का पूरा ये 100 रुपए जो मैंने क्लेम किया वो आ गया. Now I have these 5 columns and 12F में मेरा unreconciled आ जाएगा. What is the total ITC as per my audited financial statement? It is ₹100. वो मेरा report हो जाएगा. Is there any credit which I have claimed in 18-19 which pertains to 17-18? In my case, 0. Any credit of 18-19 claimed in 19-20? In our case, 0. Total credit claimed will be 100. ITC claimed in 7J, ₹100. Unreconciled, 0. So it was the simplest illustration to understand कि ये table number 12 भरना कैसे है. Moving ahead, case study 2. Now I have claimed some credits of 18-19 in 19-20. In GSTR-9, I would have reported this 10 rupees in part 5. तो मैंने part 5 में 10 rupees report कर दिए. This part 6 will be auto populated with 90 rupees जिसको मैंने split कर दिया होगा, तो वो मेरा 90 आ गया. मेरा 12A का टोटल फिगर्स आ गई. अगेन स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट, टोटल फिगर एज पर माय ऑडिटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट इट इज ₹100. वो मेरा आ गया. टोटल जो मेरी GSTR-9 से आ रही है वो 90 रुपीज आ गए, जो मेरा 7J में आ रहा है, जो मैंने पार्ट 2 में डाला हुआ है वो 90 रुपीज आ गया. 17-18 का कोई क्रेडिट मैंने क्लेम किया है? नहीं. 18-19 का कोई क्रेडिट अगले साल किया है? हाँ, 10 रुपए. 100 plus 0 minus 10, 90 with 90, unreconciled is 0. Unreconciled is 0. My total credit as per books is 100. Of this 100, 10 rupees is claimed in succeeding year. 100 plus 0 minus 10, 90 is the effective credit that I was required to claim. 90 is the effective credit claim. Unreconciled difference is 0. In this case, I have made a reversal of ₹10. I was required to claim only ₹100. I claimed 110. 10 rupees I have reversed in succeeding year. In GSTR-9, I would have reported -10 in part 5, and my part 3 would have been 110. 10 rupees I have reported, effective would be ₹100. Auto populated यहाँ पे आएगा 110. जो भी मैंने पार्ट 6 में टेबल 6 में आ रहा है वो 7J में आ गया. 110 rupees is the effective credit that I have claimed. Total credit as per my books will be ₹100 only. ये ₹100 मेरा ऑटो पॉपुलेट नहीं, I will feed as per my books. Total credit is 100. 17-18 का कोई क्रेडिट नहीं है, 0. करंट ईयर में से मेरा कोई क्रेडिट अगले साल जा रहा है, 0, 100. अब इसके अंदर सर एक कंसर्न आ गया कि पहले यहाँ पे 12C में -10 की फिगर नहीं लेता था, यहाँ पे माइनस की फिगर नहीं लेता था, लेकिन नाउ इट हैज बीन इन्फॉर्म टू मी दैट इट कैन टेक माइनस फिगर. अगर यहाँ पे ये माइनस की फिगर ले रहा है तो आप यहाँ पे इसको -10 कर दीजिए. 100 plus 0 minus का -10, it will be 110, which will match with this. And in case it does not match, अगर ये माइनस की फिगर यहाँ नहीं लेता है तो मेरा 10 रुपए का अनरिकंसाइल्ड डिफरेंस है, which you can substantiate with your GSTR-9 part 5 -10. कि सर मैंने ऑलरेडी इसको रिकंसाइल किया हुआ है, and you can give an explanation. Though in my view this minus figure is not being taken, but in case it is taking, if the software is allowing minus figure, you can feed minus figure, it will automatically become 110. Unreconciled difference will be 0. But in case minus figure, negative figure is not taken by the software, unreconciled difference of -10 will come, which can be substantiated. That kindly refer table number 12 of GSTR-9 -10. तो आप सिर्फ उस टेबल 9 की रेफरेंस दे दीजिए, आपका काम खत्म. In this case, I have claimed credit pertaining to 17-18 of ₹10. अब मैंने 18-19 की रिटर्न में ₹10 का क्रेडिट 17-18 का क्लेम किया है और 18-19 के ₹100 क्लेम किया है। पार्ट 5 के अंदर मेरा आ रहा होगा 0 क्योंकि मैंने कुछ क्लेम नहीं किया। पार्ट 2 के अंदर मेरा टोटल क्रेडिट आ रहा है ₹110। 17-18 6M में डाला होगा, 18-19 6B में डाला होगा, टोटल क्रेडिट डाला होगा ₹110। अब सबसे पहले ऑटो पॉपुलेट होगी ये फिगर 110 की जो मैंने 9 में डाली है। मेरे बुक्स में ₹100 ऑटो पॉपुलेट और मैं फीड कर दूंगा ₹100। अब 12B क्रेडिट बुक्ड इन 17-18 but claimed in 18-19, booked in 17-18 claimed in 18-19 ₹10। succeeding year में कुछ नहीं है, 100 plus 10 minus 0 110, unreconciled difference is 0, so it will match. Though I have many other illustrations also, but I think due to a paucity of time I will be stopping my deliberation over here. In case any one of you has any query, he can post it on the YouTube. We will be taking up that. And even if after that any query is left, so they can email me or WhatsApp me. I will try to resolve it at the earliest. But also I would like to reiterate that even our GST audits are in progress, so I may be occupied in some of the other places, but eventually I will be replying to all those cases. Sangam ji, now we can start with the session so that.
Yeah, sure, Tarun ji. Thank you very much, and hats off to your stamina also. And you're speaking for last 2 hours continuously. And we also want to hats off to our participant because you won't believe there is more than 400 participants, those who have joined through YouTube and Zoom. So I also want to express very sincere thanks to all the participants along with Tarun ji. So now we are starting our Q&A. Sakshi, you can start the Q&A.
Yeah, sure. So we are having one query from Mr. Amit Goyal, and he's asking for the case study that we discussed in input tax credit table 6, and the query is in GSTR-9C, if we pick up the figure from table 7J, then there will be a mismatch. Yeah. So
please, if you can just bring it on the screen, it will be better. Can we get it on the screen?
Yeah, sure, we can get it.
I'm doing it. Okay. So Tarun, you can see in the chat box the question. Okay. Just see it.
So this question is by Amit Goyal.
Yeah. Tarun, can you see the chat box?
Yeah. Chat.
In Zoom.
In GSTR-9, pick up the figure 7J, then this will be a mismatch. It is in relation to which?
This is in relation to case study number 3.
Case study number 3.
In input tax.
There will be no difference in 7J because 7J will come automatically as 110, and in case 12C does not take negative figure, that is -10. So there will be an unreconciled difference of -10, which I have already reported in my case study. And that -10, you have already reversed in 1920, and that is already reflected in your GSTR-9. So you can elaborate that in the unreconciled difference column, that it is an unreconciled difference. However, the taxpayer has already reversed that credit in 1920. Kindly refer table number 12 of GSTR-9.
Okay, so I hope that the query is resolved, and remaining balance queries are related to the PPT and everything else.
Yeah.
So
Friends, I want to assure you that post session I will upload the link on the comment section, and I will also email to those who have registered with us the PPT and the link of today's session. So don't worry about the PPT, you will get the PPT. And now I also want to let you know that, friends, CA Shubham Agrawal, another GST expert, is with us. So welcome, Shubham ji. And Shubham ji is an executive member of AOB, our AOB. So Shubham ji, you can ask some questions from your side.
Yeah, thank you, Sangam ji. Thank you, Tarun ji, for such a wonderful session. I had 2 queries and I would like to have your viewpoints on the same. If we look at table number 6 of form 9, in table
Yes.
6A, the GST figure of input as availed in 3B will be auto-populated.
Yes.
Now let us take an example. In 2018 and 19, my actual input was of rupees 100 in books of account. That 100 rupees of input was claimed in 3B in 2018-19. But another additional rupees 20 input related to 17-18 was claimed in, let us say, September 2018. So now in table 6A, the figure that will auto-populate is 120. And table 6B to 6H, I have to put figures as per books of accounts, which will come as 100, bifurcated into input, input service, and capital goods. However, there is an option to show all these figures in inputs.
Yes.
Where will this 20 rupees mismatch should be shown as per your view?
So 6M that we have already discussed during the deliberation.
All right, 6M. Correct, sir. I also have the same view. I just wanted to have your view also on the same. Uh, Another query that I have, sir, is in table number 9, payment of tax. In let me just open the table. The tax payable figure in column number 2, that will come from the table number 4 tax payable
Yes.
in GSTR-9. But let us take an example that in 2018-19, we paid some amount of tax related to 17-18.
Sir, I think just give me a minute. I will bring back those case studies which we have already discussed. Just give me a second. Sir, in this case, what we have done just a minute. So I was required to pay rupees 18 in 18-19. That I have already paid, but I have also paid rupees 10 pertaining to 17-18 in 18-19.
Right.
My part 2, that is table 4 and 5, will be limited to what I actually have to report, that is 118. My payable will be 18 in column number 2 and paid will be 19.80, and this differential of 1.80 will signify that 1.8 pertains to 17.
Yes. So,
And this
but
will
then,
automatically go to your 9C also. So there will be no conflict in 17 or 18-19 annual return also.
but Tarunji, in tax payable, the
Hmm.
figure that you said is 18 rupees,
Hmm.
and in tax paid through cash and paid through ITC, it is 19.8.
Yes.
So this signifies two things. One, it can be that tax of 17-18 is 1.8, or we wrongly paid excess tax to the tune of 1.8. This conclusion can also be drawn, and probably we would want to go for refund through RFD 01. So is there any way, since you mentioned in the beginning that there should be the amendment in the form,
Hmm.
and such amendment has not been brought by the government so far, and which I totally agree that such kind of practical case studies will create difficulty since the form is not amended. But till that time, until the time we hope and wait for a press release, is there any way to reconcile this difference of 1.8, or we should just write it down and leave it like this?
So we are leaving it like this only, and we have already started submitting GSTR-9 on this basis. And in case I am a GST officer and you file, for example, in this case, we have also discussed the refund issue also. In case the application comes before me and they are saying that this refund is due to me, so that officer should be considering that this excess should not pertain to any of the financial year. So he should ask for the 17-18 GSTR-9. He should check table number 10 and 11 of GSTR-9. And after going through that, he should ascertain whether he should give the refund or not. And otherwise also, even if the taxpayer is actually identifying or is disputing it, so there will be a risk of recovery from him at the later stage by invoking section 74. So a malafide, we cannot discuss it on the malafide practice that it can be used as a mechanism to obtain the refund. Otherwise, also, sir, in this case, every second officer is disputing this refund is not eligible. We are already fighting in one of the cases, and the biggest problem is he is not even issuing the acknowledgement. He is issuing the DM, and we have asked him, we have requested him,
Yes.
kindly issue the
They
acknowledgement
are
and
not
issue the
issuing
show
any
cause
written
notice.
document.
Reject our application. We have no concern with that. But at least accept it and issue the order that we are not giving this rating.
Very true. They are giving nothing in writing. Right, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful views. And I would
Now,
like to,
yeah.
yeah, that's it. Over to Sangamji.
Yeah, there is last question from Mr. Parag. Parag, you can ask your question.
Tarunji, I have a question for you. In case of a cross charge, if for example there is an audit fee which is for all the company taken together, but we are doing audit for 3 branches out of that whole consolidated financial statements, and cross charge के लिए कुछ document issue नहीं किया गया है, तो do we observe the put this observation in audit report?
Obviously, sir.
Okay.
So merely if a document is not issued, so I think it is a curable disease. So you
Okay.
should get the document issued and make it correct. In case they have not paid the taxes itself, then you should bring it on the record. Otherwise, you can ask the company to prepare the document and maintain all the record. Though it is on recording, but backdate हो सकता है सर, सारी चीजें हो जाती हैं.
Okay, okay. ठीक है. Thank you, sir.
So, with this note, I want to express sincere thanks and invite Mr. Mohammad Isaji to give formal vote of thanks. Mohammad Isaji is a member of AOP, and I invite Mohammad Isaji over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tarun Arora ji, for such a wonderful session. After listening again and again, I feel you are an ocean of knowledge. I hope you will continue the sprinkle of your knowledge on us. Thank you, the participant, for patient listening and active participation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mohammad Isaji. So my voice is not so clear, so I'm just reiterating his word, friends. On the behalf of the complete team of AOP, I express my sincere thanks to CA Tarun Arora ji, our learned speaker of today. He has spent more than 2 hours on a very important topic and discussed this topic in a very detailed and very beautifully. He discussed everything. Hope this point is clear. And along with that, I want to express sincere thanks to Shakshi Jindal ji. She is the member of AOP and also moderator of the session and devoted very much time into this session. And CA Parag ji, CA Mohammad Isar ji, and our executive member CA Shubham Agrawal ji. Some of the members are joining through YouTube also. So I also want to express sincere thanks to all the participants. Thank you very much to joining us. So friends, keep in touch and subscribe our channel so that you can get the information of upcoming sessions. And we are committed to provide you very good session like today. We are committed. We will provide definitely come with some new sessions also, and we also like to have some more session with Tarunji. So we'll decide and inform you later on. So with this note, I now signing off with this session. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.